So the way neighborhoods typically get developed, they're developed in phases, and typically they're referred to as like the rings of development. And each ring typically has two phases. It has an early phase and a late phase. And the epicenter of the development in the area typically centers around something that's really desirable, whether the area that's closest to a downtown area, the area that's closer to a waterfront, the area that's close to public transportation that everybody wants to be around, or it could just be one person or a group of people who bought a whole bunch of properties in the area, and then they've just decided now let's get the development going. So that's typically the first ring of development. And the first ring, what happens is they'll build that out, and then as they're building that out, other people start to see movement, other developers then go into that area. However, what happens is the homeowners, they see what's happening in the area as well, and then when they want to sell, they're requesting higher sale prices. So some people buy it, some people don't, but those that don't, they then move on to what's called the second ring of development, which is just a little further out from that first ring. It could be just almost maybe like a few blocks or something from that first ring, and they'll start buying properties around there in that second ring. So that's how the first stage of the second ring of development happens, because it's those people that don't want to pay the higher prices for that first ring of development, where those homeowners have seen the development and now they're trying to cash in on that. So they want to go a little farther out because that first ring is still being proven. So they don't want to pay too high of a price. So then what happens is, let's say half of that first ring gets developed, and then before people really start moving on to that second ring, the first phase of that second ring. So once people start developing that second ring, once again, people come in and they see there's movement in that area as well. So they'll start to buy, try to buy in the second ring, the first phase of that second ring also. But just like that first ring, typically the homeowners, they see, okay, prices are increasing, people are buying in this area. Now they want to up their sale price, so people don't want to pay that amount for it just yet. So then they'll go into the third ring. So that first phase of the third ring starts to get built out at this time. And then also at this time, while the first phase of the third ring is starting to get built out, people, the values in the area will have been increasing. So then people will start to venture back into that first ring of development as well. And so they'll start to build out that second phase of the first ring. And what this is now, you have more sales prices, and you're sandwiched between the first phase of the first ring and the first phase of the second ring. So now those that are in that second phase of the first ring, properties start to get developed then also, while the first phase of the third ring of developing the neighborhood is happening. And then what happens after that is that third ring will go, and typically I'd say that it stops at about 3 rings, because typically by then you usually hit some sort of major street, thoroughfare, or some sort of natural barrier that prevents the development for a time from crossing that point. So it's typically 3 phases or 3 rings, 2 phases to each ring. So then once the first phase of the third ring gets going, then that's when more and more people will pour in, and then they'll start filling in for the second phase of the first ring, the second phase of the second phase of the second ring, and then that third ring will get fully completed. So that's why it looks like neighborhoods take a while to develop, but that's just because, and it also explains why some development looks patchy, where you may see a lot of houses on this block, and then you skip 2 or 3 blocks, and then more houses are being developed. That's just how the rings work in each phase within those rings. Remember, the first phase within each ring is always the people who get there early, and they're there early, they have more upside, but they're also taking more risk because it's a little unproven in each first phase of each ring. And then those that get there in the second phase of each ring, they pay a little higher, but they're a little bit more secure in their investment because now that ring has already been proven, so they can pretty much guarantee what it's going to look like. So, if you're thinking about developing in up and coming area, you have to try to identify which ring of development the area is in, and what phase within each ring it's in. If you're first to the table, great, you'll pick up properties for cheap. But if you're trying to sell, or if you're trying to refi, take your money out of a deal and hold it, it might be a little riskier, as opposed to if you come in during those the second phases of those rings, then you'll pay a little bit more, but your investment will be a little bit more solid. Just wanted to share how neighborhoods get developed and the different phases and different rings that they go through. If you have any questions, please ask. And don't forget, please like, share, and comment.